So, some belated thoughts about the murder of Charlie Kirk. I was shocked, I was stunned to hear news of Charlie Kirk's murder. I had heard his name before, but I didn't know who he was. So I looked him up, and I saw that he was a brilliant debater, someone who savored intelligent conversation and the clashing of wits, and who even invited those who disagreed with him to come up and be the first in line to have a conversation. I've known people like that who really get energized by debate, but I'm really not one of them. I used to have to do some debate when I was mostly working in the pro-life cause, and I just stopped doing it because it was so stupid. It was, the whole audience was just waiting to cheer their side. And my opponent was not talking to me, she was talking to the audience or her side of the audience. And it was so artificial. What I really wanted was to have a conversation where we could both explain what we believed and talk to each other and try to understand each other and try to persuade each other. Persuasion is where I'm at. No chance of doing that in debate, although certainly Charlie was successful at head-to-head debating. There are people who respond to that well, not me. So I looked him up and I thought, I can't write anything right now. I'm just about to get on a plane to Europe, and I don't have time to do the kind of in-depth research that I think, not even in-depth, to do any research that I think I ought to do. And I could also see that a lot of other people who are good writers were on the job and they were doing some very good writing. So I felt less that there was a reason, or a crying need for me to do it. I wouldn't have anything very new to add. So we had our 12 or so days of travel, almost 2 weeks. Got home and spent most of my time writing up this short thing about Charlie Kirk. And even now, I don't know that there's anything I could say that would add anything to what others have said. The event was horrific. It felt like a breaking point, didn't it? It felt like a breaking point in history, breaking us open to a whole fresh set of horrible possibilities. It felt like a restraining force had been removed. I wish I'd looked up the scripture for that, but those who know it, you can look up that this restraining force is being removed. And now that that's happened, anything can happen. Anything that has happened in history can happen again, including the persecution and persecution unto death of Christians. Jesus said, John 16:2, "An hour is coming when whoever kills you will think that he is offering a service to God." In this context, in this new world, I don't know what to do except just be more public about my Christian faith. And that sounds pretty feeble to me. I can wear my cross every day. Not just a little cross pinned inside my collar, but wearing this one visibly, even for those who are going to hate me when they see it. I'm going to cross myself whenever I feel the impulse and not hold back out of embarrassment. Crossing myself not only before meals, but whenever I hear something to pray about, whenever I hear a siren. That's been my habit for a long time. When we bought our church building in Linthicum, Maryland, we learned on the first Sunday that there was a fire station just a block away, and that the whole worship and the sermon were going to be interrupted by sirens several times. And my husband had the great idea that he said, when you hear a siren, somebody is in trouble. So just make the sign of the cross and keep going with worship. And that's exactly what we did. If he had to pause his sermon, he did it, and then he went right back into it. So when you hear a siren, cross yourself. That's something I've done ever since, except when I felt embarrassed because other people could see me. I want to urge my Protestant friends to consider taking up the practice of this, making the sign of the cross. This was not some medieval invention. This is present in the very earliest centuries of the Christian faith. It belongs to the early church. And let me tell you this, Orthodox and Catholic Christians do not own the early church. It is your history as well. Everything in the early church, just like the New Testament, is yours. It is your history. You can use it too. And that's where we get the sign of the cross from. About AD 204, Tertullian writes, "In all our travels and movements, in all our coming in and going out, and putting on our shoes, at the bath, at the table, and lighting our candles, and lying down and sitting down, whatever employment occupies us, we mark our forehead with the sign of the cross." Tertullian writing about 204. That originally was just a little forehead cross, as Scripture talks about people being signed, having the mark on their forehead. That little forehead cross eventually became the bold, whole body cross, a very public way of bearing your cross, visibly bearing your cross, revealing yourself unmistakably to be a Christian. So I hope Protestants will take up this ancient practice as well. It belongs to you too. These seem to be such trivial things for me to do, that they are very literally the least I can do to bear witness to the Lord I love. Every day I read the lives of the saints, and I see men and women and even children who did so much more, who went not only to death, but to torture. And not only to torture, but to mockery, to ridicule, that breaks the heart in such a terrible way, that breaks the spirit. Mockery is so hard to bear. It was the kind of mockery that we saw springing up so quickly after Charlie Kirk's death. And yes, I do believe that there is something literally demonic about that. A couple of years ago, I was worrying about whether persecution is coming for Christians in America. And I was thinking, what can we do to prevent that? How can we stop this oncoming possibility of persecution? It seems like all the elites, the media, the academy, the news, the everything, entertainment, it's all of one mind, and it despises Christians. What can we do to protect ourselves in the face of that so that we don't have to undergo? How can we prevent persecution? So I was kind of worrying about that. And this thought just came into my mind, unbidden, just a thought that I did not think up. I didn't reason my way to this thought. It just appeared there. And the thought was, but Christians can do very well under persecution. Under persecution, Christians have created some beautiful things. I didn't have a comeback to that. If harder times do come, I hope I will be able to do whatever is necessary. I hope that I might even create something beautiful. And I hope that all my Christian friends, Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, whatever, I hope that you will be beside me